God. Hell no. Hell
A
no.
few years ago now, I was fresh out of college, and I moved back into my parents' house for the free food and rent while I looked for a long-term job. My parents lived in a very rural area. They were a good 60 miles from the nearest city, but I of course didn't have any other option. Summer quickly turned to winter with no luck on a new job. I was getting sick of staying at my parents all day long, so I took up a part-time job as a night security guard for a small construction site. It would only be temporary, just until I could find a job that's actually related to my field of study. The man who was in charge of the construction site was a family friend. His name was Rob. I didn't really see why he needed night security, seeing as we were in a very rural area where the crime rate is essentially non-existent. A part of me thinks he just offered the job out of pity. Either way, I took it. It didn't pay well, but like I said before, it got me out of the house. I remember it was Christmas Eve. I was scheduled to work a night shift leading into Christmas morning. All I ever really did for that job was sit in one of the construction trailers, just to keep watch on things, I guess. I'll be honest, I usually brought my DS and just played that all night. I mean, I didn't really have any set tasks I needed to get done or anything. Up until that point, the most that had ever happened was a family of deer walking around outside the window, or sometimes I'd see a set of animal tracks in the snow. It had been snowing pretty hard this night. A few inches had accumulated on the ground. Something I should mention is the nearest occupied house was a good mile down the road.
Okay.
The actual small road leading up to the construction site was all it ever led to. For someone to travel up this road meant that without a doubt they were there for the construction site. In other words, there was nothing else up here and therefore no other reason for someone to be here. All of this made what I then saw outside, I guess just downright disturbing is the best way I could describe it. I routinely glanced out the window and saw the imprint of a snow angel under a streetlight.
Woo! Shit!
If you don't know...
Oh, God! Hey, yo. Sometimes I'm really invested in really paying attention and really like honing in, like focusing mad hard on these videos like I am right now. And so I'm putting myself in his situation. And I just see a goddamn snow angel. Get the cluck out of here!
Snow angel is. It's basically when you lie on your back in the snow and swing your arms and legs back.
Battery low.
You dead ass. You dead ass. You know I'm watching something.
When you lie on your back in the snow and swing your arms and legs back and forth, leaving what looks like the outline of an angel. This is something that no animal could do. What's more is it looked like a fully grown adult had made the imprint.
Jesus.
I went outside to get a better look. I looked around for tracks in the snow and saw a set of them that came straight from the nearby woods, not the road.
Got it.
They led to the snow angel, and then around the back of the construction trailer I was just in.
Go inside now.
I couldn't get over the fact that I never once heard or saw this person, or even that there was a person out here in the first place.
Wait a minute. So where is he safe at right now? Where is he safe? Because apparently there's woods around you that probably go on for miles. Is he safe there? Is he safe outside? Or is he safe inside? But then again, he saw footprints that led into the trailer. Oh my God.
We were in the middle of nowhere on Christmas Eve, now early Christmas morning, and it was well below freezing out while still snowing. My heart rate started picking up at the thought that I wasn't alone out here. All I wanted to do was leave, and so I got in my car and started driving off. Now, this next part I'm not particularly proud of. I realized that all the construction workers would see the snow angel when they returned back to work and assume that I did it. Looking back, that wasn't a big deal, but back then I worried they might make fun of me for it. I seriously started turning back around, just so that I could kick up the snow around the snow angel to get rid of it. As the construction trailer came back into view, I noticed a figure standing at the front door. He was wearing all black with a ski mask on. He had his back to me with his hand on the doorknob. Luckily, I had locked the door, but it didn't even look like he was trying to open it. He just stood there, frozen, with his head down. I panicked and stepped on the gas to turn back around. On my way back home, I left Rob a voice message explaining what I had just seen. Rob later said how he went out to the construction site as soon as he woke up and listened to my message. When he got there, there was nothing to see. Nothing was stolen, and what was left of the snow angel and footprints had been covered by more falling snow. Rob thought the guy was trying to rob the place, thinking no one would be there on Christmas Eve. And when he saw that I was there, he made a snow angel to try and scare me off. But what I don't understand is then why didn't the guy rob the place when I left? I also just don't understand why his footprints came from the forest. It's possible it wasn't an attempted robbery, and rather some guy who wasn't right in the head just happened to stumble across the construction site.
Just stumble?
Whatever the case, that marked the last shift I ever worked as a security guard.
I would hope so. I hope we're not capping.
This happened a few years ago on Christmas Eve. I was 24 years old, and because of my financial situation at the time, I couldn't afford to travel and see my family for the holidays. It wasn't all bad though. One of my close friends offered to have me over for a Christmas dinner with his family. It went good. Come around say 7 o'clock and I was getting ready to leave. It had been snowing all night and the roads were getting pretty bad. If I waited any longer, I would have been stuck there. I had to have been one of the only cars out on those roads. I stayed at least a good 15 miles per hour under the speed limit as I made my way down the highway. Not only could I not see much of anything in front of me, but I also wanted to give myself enough time to stop if I needed to. As it turns out, I would need to. Up ahead through the snowflakes, I could make out a set of brake lights. As I got closer...
My God! Keep going! Keep going! Keep going! Keep going! I need to figure out how to do I need to figure out how to go live. And then I need to figure out how to do a live reaction. And y'all can see what I'm seeing in real time. I need to figure out how to do that.
I realized the car was completely stopped in the middle of the road. I honestly was just going to drive around it without giving it a second thought.
But what?
But for whatever reason, traffic cones were placed next to the car, blocking me from doing so.
Okay.
I couldn't really drive off the road to get around it because both sides of the highway were slanted downward and covered in snow. I didn't want to get stuck. I slowed down as I got closer, and that's when I noticed an arm waving outside the driver's side window.
My ass.
My first thought was the guy's car had broken down in the weather and he needed help.
My ass.
Although I wasn't so quick to believe this. I've seen enough true crime documentaries to be skeptical. I knew the second I got out of my car to help this guy, I was vulnerable. But the other part of me worried this man's car really did break down on him on this remote highway. And if that were the case, the obvious right thing to do would be to give him a ride, especially considering the cold weather and how little traffic came through here. I inched closer as I was deciding what I wanted to do. Finally, I got close enough to the back of the car where I had to stop. I was still thinking. I did not want to get out of my car. The next few seconds happened in what felt like the blink of an eye. Without warning, the trunk of the car popped open and two armed men got out. They had winter clothes on and were wearing masks to cover their faces.
Wow.
They started screaming at me to get out of my car as they pointed their weapons in my direction. Without even thinking of the consequences, I put the accelerator to the floor, my heart pounding in my chest. I went around the car and drove over the traffic cones. I looked in my rearview mirror and saw them rush to get back inside their car. For a second, I thought they were going to follow me, and they might have tried, but I was going as fast as I could. I lost their headlights pretty quickly. I probably broke every law for speeding that night, which was made even worse with the driving conditions of the road, but I needed to create as much distance as I possibly could. I focused on getting away for about 5 minutes, until I called the police and told them about the car and the armed men. I never heard back from them. Honestly, a part of me thinks they never even looked
I'm just now seeing a street light. You know how long you've been driving?
into it because of the poor driving conditions. But I can't prove this, so I obviously don't know. If I had to guess, I think the men were only trying to rob people. I think they were taking advantage of the inactive Christmas Eve roads, robbing people who were most likely carrying valuables in the form of Christmas presents. Although, I've since talked to some of my family members about this, and they think the men had much worse intentions.
You know what I thought of? I didn't just think about this, but when he was talking about, like, you know, just being on the road, it just popped back into my head. You know what would be clocked up? Like, to the max? Let's say you driving on like a 5, 6 lane highway, right? And everybody going like 65, 70 miles per hour. And somebody just decides they want to throw spikes, like tire spikes, like the ones that like flat your tire, like the ones like cop use or whatever, or just spikes in general, right? They just throw them on the road, like on the highway, like hundreds of them. Either. Oh, oh my! That's where my head be going. That's where my head be going sometimes. Like another thing, God forbid this happen. Like again, you like on a 5, 6 lane highway, right? Everybody going like 65, 70 miles per hour, right? And you got a truck, 18-wheeler on the right hand side, the slow lane, right? And for some reason, the truck driver just said, you know what, clock this, and makes a hard left turn, clucking up about 20, 30 cars. Oh my God.
This story happened to me when I was 8 years old.
Right.
I don't remember all the details, but I recently asked my mom about it, and she helped me fill in some of the parts I didn't remember. It was a few days before Christmas, and my mom was taking my older sister and I to the store to get Christmas presents for our extended family.
Is that a dollar store?
I think it was around 6 p.m. at night. I'm not exactly sure, but it was dark outside, I know that. Being that I was only 8, I got bored pretty quickly. It took maybe 15 minutes after entering a store for me to lose patience. While inside one of the stores, I remember sneaking away from my mom and sister to go off and do my own thing. Since it was almost Christmas, a lot of the bushes and trees outside were covered in Christmas lights. I began to wander over to the window to get a better look, and eventually, unknown to my mom, I left the store to go outside and see them up close. I remember standing right next to one of the bushes, admiring the lights and their different colors. At some point, I heard a man's voice from behind me saying hi. I turned around and looked up to see a grimy, what I now assumed to be homeless man in a rough-looking Santa costume.
Huh?
He pulled down his fake white beard to his chin and repeated himself.
Ooh.
I kind of just stood there in awe before I finally said hi back. He asked me if I was looking at the lights.
Excuse me. Thank you for anybody that said bless you.
I told him that I was and that I thought they looked cool. He then said, and I'll never forget his exact words, "If you like Christmas lights, you want to see the ones at my house.
I'm good.
Here, follow me, I'll show you."
I'm good.
He reached down to grab my hands. I excitedly grabbed it and started walking with him. We made it maybe 15 yards out from the front of the store, when the bell indicating the store door had opened chimed out, followed by a scream. It was my mom. I immediately felt the man's hand leave mine, and as I looked in his direction, I saw him full-on sprinting away from us without saying a single word. My mom ran over to me and practically dragged me back inside with tears forming in her eyes. It took me a few years to fully understand the danger I was in that night. My family still talks about it a lot. I don't like to, but every once in a while I think about it myself. Particularly how close I was to having my life completely changed or even ended in that moment. If my mom didn't notice I was missing when she did, I likely wouldn't be here today.
You know, whenever I decide to have kids, I'm probably gonna be like one of them. I don't know if any of you all ever did this. Oh God! But I'm mostly, shouts out to the ones that know I'm joking, right? But like, I'll probably be more like one of those parents that be like, whenever we leave the house and we go to like the store or whatever, and we go out like somewhere public, be like right before we leave the house, and be like, "Hey, motherfucker, you see me, right? You see me, right? You see my face? You see my glasses? You see my clothes? You see the way I'm built? You see my height? You see my color of the skin? You see me, right? You see me, right? All right. Once we go out in the public, if I'm not talking to you, if I'm not nowhere near you? You pay the people no mind. You give them no eye contact. You look for me and me alone. Don't look for no cops, cause they kind of iffy too. Don't look for no employees. They iffy too. You know what I mean? If you don't see me, that's tough. I told you to be with me at all times. You know what I look like. And if you decide you want to, you know what I mean, split up, see some candy, see some toys, that's on you. Only on you. Sorry. Not sorry. Keep cold, keep classy. And I love you, stay happy. Merry Christmas, my favorite.